Grandpa, the HOA lady's on the fence again. I shouted through a mouthful of Pop-Tart, half-eaten and forgotten in my hand, as I stared wide-eyed out the kitchen window. There she was, Margaret Hensley, Maple Grove's most feared HOA enforcer, draped over our 6-foot privacy fence like she was filming a stunt for a low-budget spy thriller. Her reflective vest practically glowed in the morning light. Clipboard in one hand, foam pad strapped to her knees like some kind of suburban commando. She looked like she was ready to rappel into combat. If the enemy was slightly crooked solar lanterns. 4th time this week. Grandpa Walt muttered from the porch swing, never looking up from his coffee. She's just begging for it now. This wasn't about a fence anymore. It was about turf, power, a war over lawn flamingos, cheery wind chimes, and anything Margaret considered excessively expressive. The first shots had been fired 3 months ago, when Grandpa moved to take care of me. Ethan, 15, gamer, and temporarily orphaned by my parents' overseas jobs. Grandpa, a retired Navy engineer with a love of gadgets and a grudge against overreach, took one look at the HOA rulebook and declared war. The opening salvo? A fine for our mailbox. Apparently, the paint color, teal, mind you, wasn't on the approved aesthetic palette. Then she went after Grandpa's beloved flamingo display, calling it a visual disturbance. But what really flipped the switch was the day we caught her measuring our azaleas inside our yard without knocking or warning. She claimed some obscure HOA clause gave her boundary override privileges. Grandpa almost choked on his coffee. That same night, he disappeared into the garage for 6 hours. I thought he was building a bird feeder. I was wrong. Now here she was again, hauling herself over the fence like a lizard in orthopedic sneakers. Her eyes locked on Grandpa's herb garden like it was a crime scene. She landed in a crouch and started crawling toward the oregano, clipboard ready like it doubled as a sword. Grandpa glanced at the porch camera and gave the smallest of smirks. "Watch this," he said. Click. A sprinkler popped up in the soil with a hiss and blasted Margaret full in the face. But this wasn't just water. It was Grandpa's special mix. Green food dye, peppermint oil, and who knows what else. Supposedly it kept deer away. Also nosy bureaucrats. Margaret shrieked, flailed, slipped, and toppled headfirst into the oregano patch. "You're trespassing." I called from the doorway, trying not to laugh. She staggered upright, covered in wet herbs, neon vest glistening like a traffic cone in distress. Grandpa sauntered over, opened the side gate, and said calmly, "Exit's right here. No need to climb." She stormed out, muttering about lawyers and lawsuits. Grandpa handed her a laminated sign on the way. "Trespassers may be sprayed." By lunchtime, our neighbor Tim had already posted security footage to the neighborhood chat. Caption: "Green Goblin down. Porch Admiral wins." Someone replied, "Popcorn's ready for the rematch." At dinner, Grandpa dropped the next bombshell. "We're wiring the gate tomorrow," he said, casually moving his meatloaf aside like it was an afterthought. I nearly spit Sprite across the table. "Is that legal?" "Only if she's dumb enough to grab it," he grinned, eyes twinkling like he was back on a Navy ship. The garage turned into a command center. Blueprints lined the walls. Wires and timers spilled across the workbench. I could have sworn I saw him test a motion sensor using a cantaloupe. The man hadn't worn a uniform in 30 years, but this was his battlefield now. That night, I sat with him on the porch as he tinkered with some wires. "Why do you even care this much?" I asked. He rocked in silence for a moment. Then, "She thinks she owns us," slips into our yard. Rights rules nobody voted on. People like that, they steal freedom in plain sight. And just like that, it wasn't about flamingos anymore. It was about dignity. By morning, the Gate Zapper 3000 was ready. A low-voltage charge, harmless but enough to startle. Triggered by motion, with a camera hidden in a birdhouse to capture everything. We set up camp that evening like a pair of night watchmen. 2 lawn chairs, a bag of burritos, and Grandpa's ancient night vision goggles. "This is probably illegal," I whispered. "Only if we post it online," he replied, biting into a burrito. "And only if she sues." At exactly 1:47 a.m., the sensor blinked. She was back. dressed in all black, clipboard strapped across her back like a rifle. Her hoodie read, "Order is unity." She crept under the roses, muttering about illicit trellises, then reached for the side gate's vine-covered latch. Zap! A faint spark. A squeal. One of her sneakers flew off as she stumbled backward. Yelling loud enough to wake the neighborhood, she collapsed into the mulch, rolled once, and limped off into the shadows, cursing bylaws that probably didn't even exist. Grandpa raised his burrito in a silent toast. Now she'll learn respect. By breakfast, Tim had edited the footage with cartoon sound effects. By lunch, it hit local meme pages. By dinner, Grandpa was trending on Reddit and TikTok under the name Gate Admiral. Teens on X were reenacting Margaret's fall to circus music. I begged him to take it down. He shrugged. If I get arrested, just make sure they spell my name right. But the HOA didn't laugh. The next day, a thick manila envelope landed on our doorstep. Red stamp, urgent violation. Inside was a letter, Margaret's cursive practically vibrating with fury. To Walter James Carson, your electrified gate violates community safety codes. Remove it within 24 hours or face legal action. Grandpa read it aloud in a dramatic accent while frying bacon. They even spelled deterrent wrong. I stared. You're going to stop, right? He pointed at the live camera feed. Margaret was pacing across the street, clipboard clenched. That clipboard, he said grimly, is the real threat. And suddenly, I wasn't so sure this was just a prank war anymore. Lawyers was another. But Grandpa was electric, calling the yard his DMZ and sketching Zapper 2.0, like he was prepping for D-Day. He handed me a walkie-talkie, dead serious. If they breach the gate, use Channel 3. Channel 2 is for pizza. That night, I was jolted awake by a low hum. Outside, hovering like a mechanical hornet, was a drone, red light pulsing, marked Maple Grove HOA surveillance unit. I scrambled to Grandpa's room, banged on the door. They're spying. I hissed. He peeked out, popcorn in hand. Oh, good, he grinned. Time to teach it manners. The next morning, Maple Grove turned into a circus. Neighbors dragged lawn chairs out like it was the 4th of July. A still from the Zapper video had been printed and pinned to the community bulletin board. Margaret midair, limbs flailing, mouth open. Caption, the shock felt round the block. Then came the flyer, glued to every mailbox, drenched in passive-aggressive fury. Emergency HOA meeting. Order must prevail. Grandpa buttered his toast like he was spreading war paint. Let's go see the tyrants. The clubhouse was packed. Fluorescent lights flickered. Stale cookies sat untouched. You could chew the tension. Margaret sat at the head table. Neck brace, band-aids, dramatic sighs. And beside her was a real puppet master. Victor Clean, HOA president, real estate mogul, and owner of a voice so smug it made root canals sound relaxing. He stood up, clasping his hands like a televangelist. Our community, he intoned, is under siege. Reckless defiance has become weaponized. An electrified gate. An assault on our beloved compliance officer. Margaret fake coughed. Tim muttered. She climbed the fence. Victor raised a manicured hand. Effective immediately, Walter Carson faces a $600 daily fine retroactive. Gasps. My jaw hit the floor. That was thousands. Victor wasn't done. If Mr. Carson continues, we'll pursue trespass, endangerment, and harassment charges. Grandpa stood slowly, coffee in hand, calm as an old sailor watching a storm. I've rebuilt tanks under fire, he said. I've seen men cry over snap radio wires. But I've never seen a woman sneak into my yard uninvited and cry foul when she face plants in my oregano. I didn't zap the street. I protected my home. Murmurs. Then Tim clapped. Then others. Grandpa looked Victor in the eye. You want order? Respect the property line. You don't rule my porch unless you're paying my taxes. Victor's face flushed so hard it looked sunburned. Court it is, he spat. Grandpa just smiled. I'm free Wednesdays. That night, Gate Admiral was trending. Sides were drawn. The HOA doubled down. Bigger drones, more patrols, like Grandpa was some kind of suburban fugitive. So he fought fire with chaos. Spent a full day in the garage, Carl on speakerphone, building Buster, a repurposed leaf blower, rigged with LEDs and a speaker that blasted static and whale noises. First night out, Buster lit up the sky, scrambled the drone sensors. It fled, spiraling away like a defeated UFO. Next night, 3 drones returned, searchlight beams scanning our lawn like sci-fi cop cruisers. The battle lines were clear. Then a news van pulled up. Channel 9 Sarah Vega leaned over our fence with a mic. "Mr. Carson, care to comment?" Grandpa wiped his hands, looked straight into the lens. "I fought for this country. If someone's counting my flamingos, they better have a warrant." Boom. Viral. Memes exploded. Grandpa with a garden hose like a flamethrower. Flamingo Freedom started trending. Someone remixed the Zapper footage with dubstep. A late-night show host called him the Porch Pyre Hunter. The HOA panicked. Posted new signs. And unauthorized filming. Too late. Then came a thick envelope from the Regional Homeowners Council. Accusations, surveillance disruption, incitement, property weaponization. That night, a drone dropped a small box on our lawn. Inside was a plastic flamingo holding a tiny Unity through rules flag. Grandpa set it beside Buster like a fallen soldier. "Let him send trinkets," he said. "We're not done yet." And that's when it happened. The neighborhood snapped. In the end, it wasn't just about drones or flamingos. It wasn't about bylaws or neck braces or even electrified gates. It was about standing your ground. About one stubborn old man with a walkie-talkie, a homemade drone blaster, and the nerve to say, "Not on my lawn." Grandpa didn't just guard his yard. He reminded a whole neighborhood that they still had a voice, that being weird, loud, and proudly pink was better than quietly controlled. He sparked a rebellion with a hose, a leaf blower, and a plastic bird. Victor fled. Margaret disappeared into HOA witness protection, probably somewhere in Florida. And Maple Grove? It changed. The drones disappeared. The rules got rewritten. And the flamingos? They stayed. A mural went up, Grandpa in his rocking chair, Buster at his feet, and a flamingo army behind him. Captioned, "Guard your yard." I got a scholarship because of Buster. Grandpa never bragged. He just said, "Rules are fine as long as they don't crush the people they're meant to protect." Now tourists pass by our house to snap photos. Kids ride their bikes through what used to be a battleground. And every so often, someone new with a clipboard stops by. Grandpa just clicks the remote and says, "Welcome to Maple Grove." Buster spins up. The flamingos stand tall. And the spirit of rebellion? Still pink. Still proud. Still watching the gate.